Welcome to What's Good, the podcast that reviews movies and TV shows. Today we have an interesting one. We are talking Star Trek Discovery. I'm Ravi, joined by my two brothers,
Krishna.
Arjuna.
and we are not the crew of Star Trek Discovery.
Yeah. In fact, why are we even here is the bigger question.
So the main reason that we're here is because Arjuna pointed out many moons ago, and we've built everything up to this moment, that our very first podcast for Was It Good was Star Trek Discovery, Season 1, Episode 1, when we were still an audio podcast back in 2017, I would assume, is when...
2018.
So, full circle. The Star Trek Discovery show is fully done after 5 seasons. I just want to spit some facts at you real quick, just to get your initial reactions. So it's lasted 5 seasons. All on Paramount Plus. It was not, or actually started out on the CBS app first. The
CBS All Access is what it was
All Access.
called.
Then it moved to Paramount Plus. Discovery was actually one of the first big bets that Viacom, CBS, Paramount used in order to get into the streaming wars. So it's kind of interesting that, the streaming wars are still going, changing, whatever, and the show is now done. But they were nominated for 87 nominations, from Emmys to science fiction and fantasy horror awards to some Canadian Society Awards. They won 21 of those nominations, which is fascinating to think about. Some other fun facts, it sits at overall as a show, it sits at 84 for the Rotten Tomatoes score. The audience score is only 34, but we'll skip over that fact right there. Now, I've obviously finished the show. You guys are at different places with the show. So, Judah, we'll start with you because I feel like you've got more there. Just tell us, where did you fall off the show and what's your kind of take on Star Trek as a whole?
Yeah, so for Discovery, I watched the first 2 seasons, quote unquote live when they came out. I was watching those week to week, and then after that, I really fell off. I've watched the parts of the 3rd season. I would say I'm about 3/4 of the way through. It's taken me many years to get through it, and I do plan on finishing the show one day. But I would just say it's a lower priority for me. For me, with Discovery in particular, after season 2, that's where they do the time jump, where they go well into the future, and it kind of just feels like a different show. The first 2 seasons were very much grounded in the past. There was this kind of who is the captain, this mystery of kind of everything, the spore drive, and then the show changed a little bit, and it wasn't as enjoyable for me anymore. I also really liked the 2 captains they had in the first seasons. They had Lorca, portrayed by the great actor who plays Lucius Malfoy, whose name I'm forgetting right now. Jason Isaacs, right? And then for season 2, they had Captain Pike, who proved to be so popular they made a very successful spin-off show, which is considered the best of the live-action Star Treks right now. So, that Strange New World show is still going on, and I feel like a lot of Discovery fans kind of jumped to that over the last few years when that came around. But yeah, I think Star Trek's in an interesting place. I think Star Trek before this point, used to be kind of 1 shows, maybe 2 shows max. Back in the 90s when you had Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager all kind of simultaneously bleeding into each other, and some of the movies, that was kind of the height of Star Trek in a lot of ways. This kind of took it to the next degree, and it felt like the show got a little the brand got overexposed, if you will, with too many shows, too many things going on, and it felt like too much. I think for me personally, Lower Decks is still kind of the shining example of Star Trek that I enjoy in this current era, even though that is also coming to a close this year. The last season, season 5, it will be airing later this year. But yeah, I think Star Trek is just less of a priority for me now. It's just the quality has dipped since it's been its new maiden voyage under Paramount Plus, under CBS All Access, the streaming era, if you will. And none of the shows have felt like a priority. I never really watched Picard. I still haven't gotten into Strange New Worlds. Again, I will eventually, but there's nothing that it doesn't feel pressing to go and do it. It doesn't feel like I gotta go see it. It doesn't feel like there's a conversation around this type of stuff where I need to drop everything I'm doing and watch. I could just be like, yeah, I can maybe read a few Wikipedia pages to get a rough idea of what's going on, and then watch it at my own pace.
A couple of things that you brought up there that are interesting. Number one, I would say real quick, the peak of Star Trek, where all the older series like Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, they were running into each other, and at the same time there were big movies coming out as well. A lot of people would argue that that same thing is happening right now. And if you remember back then when that happened, Paramount pulled out of all the Star Trek stuff because of the oversaturation. So I would not be surprised if we see a dip, going from 3 or 4 active concurrent series, if we go down to like 1 and then maybe nothing for a couple of years or whatever.
It
But
kind
Christian,
of
what
feels
is...
like Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I was
I
going
was
to
just
say,
gonna
Christian,
say-
I want to give Christian some time
Sure.
on his Star Trek.
Oh, don't worry. Mine is
Voyage.
gonna be very short and sweet. A real, interesting. Anyway, first, I've never been into Star Trek. The family used to gather on evenings to watch Star Trek, and I would eat dinner and then go up to my room and read, because that was far more entertaining than those shows. And that was
Nerd.
peak Star Trek, apparently. Next Gen and Deep Space, and through overhearing conversations, I felt like I still watched the show because the whole family was really into it. I was not. I was forced to watch the first season of Star Trek Discovery, for I would not have willingly chosen that as a show to watch. I think after that first season, I believe we rated it all as bad.
Mhm.
I decided, yep, I was right, and I stopped right there. It is interesting because Ravi is probably the biggest Star Trek fan here. He's the one who's been watching. He puts himself through shows like Picard, which I have not watched, or I think I watched a few episodes actually, but it was so bad that you can just tell it was just a horrible show. So I quickly dipped out of that. But Ravi has stayed true to the course and done his family proud.
I don't think that's a good thing. I think it's a very bad thing. I think it's a problem.
I
Um,
agree.
But the thing that's like annoying and frustrating with the Star Trek shows is they do have moments where they are really, really good. They bring up very interesting discussions about real world events, things that are actively happening. Like one of the most chilling Star Trek episodes I think I've ever seen was in Star Trek Strange New Worlds. And I think it was the second or third episode of the first season, where Pike is on a planet that is basically about to have its own civil war. And he makes references to like what was happening on January 6th. And to me, that's like scary because it's happening in real time and it's showing, what could be in our world on an alien planet in the distant future or whatever. And again, it's some of those things where like these shining moments occur, but then as a whole, it's just like, what the fuck are you doing? Like Picard is another really good example where the first season I was so hyped for. I think again, my problem is I overhyped the show, and it was just complete and utter like, what the fuck is going on? And then the second season you watch because you're like, maybe there's hope. And then the third season was like, oh, that's a banger. Why didn't you all just do this to start? That would have been so much, like, made so much sense. And I've tried to like encourage you guys to like at least watch Picard season 3, but it makes sense. Like when you've seen all the negativity, all the like bad reviews on the other, like why would you put the investment into it? Like I totally understand that.
Also, never just been a Star Trek fan, so.
But that's the thing though, is like, again, with the shining moments when these shows are not, when they don't feel like bigger parts of like the IP and like they feel like individual science fiction shows, that's when I think they really shine through and they're like, okay, this is cool, because you can go into the show and you don't need to know what happened on Stardate, God knows what the fuck. You don't need all this other lore and backstory. You can just go and enjoy the story. That's when it shines. But
Ravi, I figured it out. Star Trek is your Arrowverse for me. Like that's your relationship with it.
1000%.
You're like you toxically keep coming back, but at some point it will break you, and you will break free from it. Even just the trajectory of it, right? Like they oversaturated the Arrowverse,
Yeah.
they're oversaturating Star Trek, and it's all just going to end. And you're already seeing that. Almost all the shows are canceled or wrapping up at this point, besides Strange New Worlds. And I guess they do have a new one coming out, Starfleet Academy. But that's not even coming out on Paramount Plus, I don't think.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, that one's still potentially coming out. We'll see. I mean, again, the streaming quote war has changed how a lot of these larger companies are thinking and feeling about shows and greenlighting shows and these streaming platforms. So, heck, I wouldn't be surprised if like 20 years down the road, and it's like new Star Trek on Wednesdays, which was always like the traditional time, Wednesday night. If it's just like on cable TV, and that's the only way you can like get to see it.
Yeah, my prediction is streaming will be over in 20 years, and they'll bring a revolutionary model where you pay for cable. It's just, I have a weird feeling. It won't be like exactly like the old times, but it's going to come back to like this singular.
Well, it's already started.
Be like one
You're already
company
seeing
that
it.
pays for the streaming, and then you just pay for that.
Right, no, but that thing's already started. Like with these companies like Disney, or Max, and somebody like they announce like bundles or whatever. It's the same idea. It's like it's what happened
Hulu
way back
bundle.
in the day when the telecom companies started getting involved with the actual networks and then packaging them together. The difference though now is that internet is the thing. You don't necessarily need the telecom in the same way that you did traditionally with cable.
Right.
But we are we've made a big circle, which is hilarious.
And was it good?
It's also twice as expensive.
Now, we usually on this podcast, we do one-word impressions. Doesn't really work in this situation because Christian and Juno have not finished Star Trek Discovery. We may be waiting for the next Ice Age till they finish it. So what I'd like to hear from you instead is your one-word impression guess. If you had to sum up the entire series as a guess based on the limited knowledge of the show that you have, how would you sum it up? Juno will kick it off to you first.
Okay, my guess for my one-word impression of Discovery would be toxic. Because if I finished Discovery, it means I have subjugated myself to a toxic trait of being a completionist, which I've been trying to get out of. So it would be going backwards for me, right? Where I need to learn to let go of things and not feel like I have to complete them. So toxic for me.
You're also a toxic masculine advocate. I'm just as far away from that as possible.
Let me tell you about Star Wars.
The anti-version of that. I think
don't do it. Don't do it. Oh,
Christian, what's your a guess? One-word impression.
It's easy. It's so easy. Ravi, I've had the pleasure of just overhearing your wins and your losses around Star Trek. My one-word impression for Star Trek Discovery, all 5 seasons, is going to be shit.
Shit.
It's gonna be shit. This is gonna be the first show where you're gonna say at the end they should rename Star Trek to Star Shit, and it would make perfect sense because that's what they're churning out mostly. Yeah, you might what is it, like 5% of the time you go to the bathroom and you have that one perfect shit. And it comes out and it's delightful, and you're like, oh man, I got just the right amount of fiber last night. I'm hydrated. But the rest of it is just regular shit. It's nothing to write home about.
I'm almost positive, Christian, you've used shit before as a one-word impression, and you've used that same analogy at least once before.
Yeah. Good. I want you to dig it up, historian Arjuna. We can see what that other time was. I wonder if it was another Star Trek show.
Christian, is this your way of like explaining that you're having like bowel problems? Do you need to see a doctor? Like,
I have a lot of things going on in my life.
You're like tired right now. You're complaining about shit. Like,
hey man, it's a good thing I shaved my head because if I hadn't, you'd see a lot of grays right here. I got that silver foxing going.
Christian, you've been saying that you've been eating a lot of.
We did the first original.
Go ahead.
When we did the first Star Trek Discovery episode, Christian had a full head of hair. We can't verify that because it was an audio podcast.
Yeah, I'm like, that's not true. But they will never know. So
I think for me, my one-word impression, because I've seen the entire thing, is
also shit.
Yeah,
I'd say misdirection. Not in the sense that like a story was created and they were like making you guess, but more like I feel that the people at the top didn't know what they had and didn't know what they were doing. So then therefore they gave the creators misdirection. Therefore the story was kind of convoluted as fuck. Therefore the acting is kind of like what the hell's going on? Like everything from the top down was just misdirection all over the place. Which kind of sucks because again, I think the thing with Star Trek Discovery is like you definitely can break it into two areas, right? Pre-season 3 and post-season 3 is kind of like the midpoint where they are in the Kirk time period. You know, the main antagonist, Michaels. She's the sister, adopted sister of
Did you call her
Spock,
antagonist? Right? It's protagonist.
Protagonist. Yeah, sorry. That's why I got confused.
I was like, wow. Damn, okay. They made the good guy the bad guy.
In the first season, though, you could argue she is the antagonist because she kind of starts the whole Klingon war, and that to me does not feel like a good thing. So,
well, she's your point of view. No. Antagonist isn't about good or bad. It's about who's the force in front of the way of your main character, which was very clearly Burnham.
Yeah, so Burnham is the bad guy. Thank you for proving my point. She kept getting in her own way, though. This entire season 5, a big thing is about her trying to figure out, is she doing the right thing? And in every step and every decision she makes in season 5, like, they get fucked because of her lack of, like, understanding what she should be doing as a captain. Like, yes, I'm standing on this. She's the fucking antagonist of the goddamn show. But anyway, so you have pre that, and then they're in the original time period, and then they do the time jump. But when they do the time jump, there is a massive shift in the show, even the sets, even how the characters interact with each other. There's definitely more lightheartedness to it compared to season 1 and 2. Season 1 and 2 are very dark, gritty. Like the way I would explain is like, remember Battlestar Galactica and how like shaky camera, everything was low lit, everyone's pissed off at each other, everyone wants to like fucking either fuck each other or kill each other. That's how season 1 and 2 felt, and then season 3, 4, and 5 was like way too happy-go-lucky,
like goofy.
It was more
Star
classic
Trek.
Star Trek at that point.
Yeah, and that's where it's like the show. I think for a lot of people, it was like, what's happening? But what's interesting and strange, like at the top, I said there, they got nominated for 87 nominations, 21 wins. The majority of those all come from, well, two interesting facts. The majority of those come from the later seasons, but then it's also more so on the technical aspects, sound design, VFX, all the technical stuff is what they were winning on. They were very rarely actually nominated for actual acting, unfortunately. Doug Jones did get a couple of Saturn Awards for Best Supporting Actor, but Doug Jones does a great job in his prosthetics and all that fun stuff. So, yes.
So, what's our one-word impression?
Wonderful summary.
Toxic shit misdirection.
Sounds about right.
Sounds like that could be like an anti-Star Trek band. Like you play songs like against the Federation. Like the Federation's evil. That's what we should do. Let's give up on the pod and let's make a music trio group.
Oh,
making parody songs.
Oh, that is a little oversaturated. I don't know if you've been on YouTube recently. Hey, I don't know if you've been on YouTube recently.
No, you told me to get off, so I did.
Smart man.
Why? What's going on YouTube, guys?
Oh, just this little thing that we gave our opinion and basically told to fuck ourselves.
Let me tell you guys, I wasn't on that podcast, so let me tell you why your opinion is wrong.
Yeah. Well,
all right, so let's pretend for a second, you have the ability to go back and kind of redo Star Trek Discovery. So Christian, you ended at season 1, so 2, 3, 4, and 5, you have no idea what's going on there. Arjuna, you ended, or you're in the middle of the time jump. thing. So you're in the middle of season 3. So Christian, you go first. Tell us what you need to see happen in this hypothetical for you to say, oh, Star Trek Discovery is a good show. Because obviously you remember some of the characters of the general story of season 1. So yeah, what in your mind should have happened next?
I don't know. It would have to go. It would have to be like nuts. Like the end of season 1 would have had to be like Burnham woke up and it was a dream, or she was getting experimented on and hallucinating. Like it would have to have gone to like a different level.
So like Dallas,
because to get over, for me the block is that it's Star Trek, right?
Mm.
So it would have had to have been so out there that I would have been like, wow, this is really intriguing. This doesn't feel like Star Trek at all. It would have to have gone to like the Matrix. She wakes up in the real world and it's like Earth 1999 and she's the chosen one and Morpheus is there offering her the red pill, like it would have to just been not Star Trek.
So
that would have been what it would have needed for me.
So then so it's so, why do you like Lower Decks then?
Because it feels that feels closer to like a Family Guy or Rick and Morty.
Even though
it's like the premise of that show is just goofy. I mean, that's the first season. As the show has gone on, it's gotten closer, I'd say, to more traditional Star Trek, where we've got more like Star Trek-esque storyline situations. But the focus is on the comedy, the funny situations. The episodes are more like that situational comedy, and the fact that it's ending is also is a plus. It's like, okay, nice self-contained show. After that, I can forget about Star Trek. Cleanse myself of that filth.
As long as Arjuna and I have breath in our lungs, you will never ever get away from Star Trek.
Oh, I mean that's true. Just through osmosis, they'll just transfer.
Hey, I just got a call from Paramount. They want us to write their doomed feature movie that they can't get off the ground. Doomed. Like they had the long gestating like Star Trek movie in development now for over a decade. It feels like, or was it? The last movie came out in like 2017, I want to say. So it's been a long time since the Star Trek movie has come out. Do you guys remember the Idris Elba one? With
I just rewatched that on the plane. Pretty good.
Is it still bad?
You like it? Yeah, it's terrible, but it's still better than Star Trek 2. Wait, Star Trek 2 is Into Darkness, right?
Yeah, that's the Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yeah, that one's terrible. The third one I can't remember what the fuck it's called, but that one was better at least. The first one still bangs. Like, I like the first one. Yeah. Juna, how would you want? I mean, you're in the middle of season 3, and as you know, there's a time jump there. So, like, how do you imagine it should go in your perfect world?
I just think it should get better.
And don't say it's all a dream.
I think I think the thing that doesn't work for me with the show currently is how it just doesn't know what it wants to be, right? Sometimes it feels like it wants to be an older Star Trek show where it's, adventure of the week, and then sometimes it feels like it wants to be one of these newer streamers where it's like, here's this overarching kind of theme. And I think when you try to do both, you end up doing neither. So I just want the show to... What would help me with the show, I mean, obviously I know it's done, would just be to find something and stick with it, right? Like, just figure out what you want to be and just do it. And then stop trying to continue to alter and cater to everybody of like, now it's dark and gritty, now it's light and funny, now we're in the past, now we're in the future, here's this cool thing, here's that. Like, just do your thing, right? Like, figure out what your thing is and just do it. Because I think the flip-flopping, you just end up alienating the few fans you do have, and then you end up having no fans, right? It's like a restaurant. I feel like you make pizza. Don't be like, you know what? We're also going to make sushi as well because 3 people came in and were like, we really would love some sushi right now. And you're like, I'm going to change my whole concept and just divide and conquer and do everything, right? Don't be a Cheesecake Factory. Don't have a 15-page menu. Just have a single sheet with like 4 dishes and you're good.
I don't know if that Cheesecake Factory metaphor works because there are some people that love Cheesecake Factory and they're still in business. So that business model, there's
I
a
think
market
it works
for that.
perfectly because
Maybe
Star
there's
Trek is
maybe
still
there's a
in
market.
business. There are still Star Trek shows coming out, and people like it for
I'm
some
keeping
reason.
the franchise alive.
Yeah, it's just Ravi's the only viewer, and Ravi, you should feel very lucky that you just got a whole network catering to you. With today's technology, it should be pretty easy to hack into your house though and figure out what you like. So they should be able to make the perfect show for you. I don't know why they haven't yet.
Well, it's funny you say that. There is a new company that just started.
Oh, God.
Don't remember the name, but basically, they're calling themselves the AI Netflix network. So basically, you go in and you to tell it what you want as a show, and it will. I think currently it's like 3 different animations. It's all animation, so it's 3 different animation styles, and it'll create a story for you, or cater to like what you want to see. So we're getting close.
Yeah, and when you get to that point, though, if that becomes a big business model, then you've just defeated the whole purpose of entertainment. The point of entertainment isn't to get what you want; it's to get what you didn't know you wanted. That it's the surprises that keep us intrigued. It's like, oh, I didn't. It's the shocking. It's like I didn't know I like that. I'm shocked. I need more. It's like a drug. It's like. But if you just get what you want, you get very bored easily. So
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard for me to, going back to the qualifier question. Like, obviously, I can't really answer it because I've seen the whole thing. I will say this: the ending of the show is very different from any other Star Trek ending because it does finalize our characters. It locks them in place and it doesn't give wiggle room to adjust. And I'm not saying that they all end up in the grave, but like it does something that's very different from what I thought they would do. I mean, I guess spoilers. I could tell you guys if you want to know, or
Let's do
I
it.
know you said you'll watch it sometime in your life.
Probably in my 50s.
You want me to spoil it or no?
Do it.
Okay, so and for our listeners, I'm about to spoil the whole thing. So turn off, look away, whatever. So in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So they stay in the future. They are all in the future. It jumps ahead even further to their future where they're all older. And Discovery's still around. The Federation is now like bustling in the future, and everything's wonderful. And it's basically the closing ceremony of Discovery. Discovery's being pushed out into deep space to be left to be found because there's this theory that the ship. This part is the only part that's kind of like weird, is that the ship is left in deep space. The ship has like this new AI thing that is from another future. So it's like being pushed out there to be left and discovered down the road or whatever. But for the actual physical characters, they are all in their old age. Our main character, she becomes an admiral. She has a kid who's about to become a Starfleet captain. So we kind of like know that they have like a happy ending, if you will, which is not something that you usually get. Like Star Trek Enterprise with Archer ends, with Tucker being blown up into bits. That was a great ending.
Though there's a book. There's a book actually that I read that says he didn't die.
Yeah, he was actually part of like some Black Ops mission or something.
Yeah.
There are other ones like Next Generation just kind of ends with them playing music or chess or something, or cards. And then, we get all the spin-offs and movies, the Picard show, all that crap. And even Picard ends where it's like, we're going to go on more adventures. Like, again, it's not really finalized. But with this, it feels it's been finalized. So I think that was a nice, different thing. But to like Arjuna's point earlier, it's like, what are you?
It's over. Pain is
last
over.
thing before, we get into the big was it good question, which I have a fun little twist on. We know that Star Trek is a massive IP. I'm the head of whatever, and I say to, Krishna or Juna, you can make whatever the fuck you want. It can be a musical on ice. It could be a one movie escape room event. Like any kind of media visual content, you get to make it. It's obviously about Star Trek. What do you make? What time period do you pick? And do you follow the Federation even? Who's ready to go?
I'll go. I got
right.
something weird. I just came up with this on the spot. I would pitch a show about, I don't know how you would do it, but like sort of like a galaxy-wide apocalypse. So either some kind of sickness or perhaps like a planet destroying thing. Maybe like something from beyond. This is funny because maybe it's already been done. But what I would do is the idea behind it is that 98% of the show you don't know it's Star Trek. So you're just simply following like survivors trying to survive this like planet killing thing. And at the very end you get a snapshot of like a Federation uniform. So this would be set way in the future. The Federation is destroyed by this apocalypse. And it ends with just individual like families, like these really small clan like peoples trying to survive, escape the galaxy, if that's even possible, to get away from this galaxy-wide apocalypse.
So you just explained season 3 and 4 of Star Trek Discovery. So season 3, they're in the future. There's no longer warp drive, so they can't go faster than light because of some event. That's the mystery event thing
The burn.
we're figuring out. And then season 4 is there's this planet destroying weapon that's been introduced by an interdimensional alien species that are bulldozing to make ways for their ships or whatever, and they look at the galaxy as ants. So,
but does
Christian,
it
you
end?
should be a writer for Star Trek, is what I'm hearing.
But does it end with the end of the Federation?
I mean, the third season, you could argue the Federation's in hiding, so it's not ended fully, but like because of this event 500, I think they call it not the blackout.
Isn't it called the burn?
They call it some event in season 3, and because of it, the Federation, obviously, because all of a sudden you can't get anywhere, everything becomes like very, very condensed, and almost the end of the Federation. So,
okay.
I mean, it would have been cooler if it was truly like they have to restart the Federation as opposed to it's been there just kind of hiding.
Yeah, I like the image of like a once thriving galactic civilization reduced to ruins, and you've got like a family hopping from planet to planet trying to get supplies and escape the cleanup of this thing that's trying to wipe out whatever is left. And then they're trying to put together enough secrets or find enough tech to get to escape the galaxy. And it would be like really dark, dystopian, kind of a lonely show. A lot of like character analysis, like is it even worth it at that point? Should you just give up? What drives someone to survive in that situation? And then at the very end, boom, Star Trek.
Play the classic,
but
like
you don't even know the whole time you don't even
like,
and there'll be like really subtle references that only like uber Star Trek nerds like you be like, wait, is this Star Trek? Yeah, and then you go on Reddit and you guys can have like all these crazy theories like, no, it's not Star Trek. God, I think it's Star Trek.
That would be cool. I mean, it would be
ever.
Amazing if a network would ever do something like that with a big IP, like not market it as part of the IP.
Actually, what was that? What was the movie that came out that was like it was like a horror movie, and at the very end you realize it's like, oh my god, it's Godzilla or something, or not Godzilla, but yeah, maybe I don't know. I'm not to look it up.
Split when it introduced.
Split's a good example. There's a really good
Bruce
example.
Willis.
Yeah, that was another one though. Keep going. We can circle back.
For me, I think you kind of hit on the head, Ravi, when you kind of introduced this prompt of, would you even follow the Federation? And I would say no, right? Every Star Trek show has basically followed the Federation or people around the Federation or has something majorly to do with the Federation in like a point of view protagonist type of way. I would want the Federation from the opposite end, right? Almost to be the antagonist of the show. I want to show how I want to challenge the idea of like the Federation is this ultimate power of good, because probably it is, right? It probably is in the universe, at least, like a stabilizing thing, but it's going to be oppressive to some people out there, right? Like there's just no way you can have a governing body that large that people are going to see as bad and isn't going to have pockets of it being actually oppressive or evil, quote unquote, in some type of way. So I would want to focus on one of those planets on like the edge of the Federation or even outside of the Federation that doesn't kind of comply to their rules, and how their point of view is with kind of working through this whole thing. I think that would be kind of a fascinating slice of Star Trek to look at. And it still goes with a lot of the themes that Star Trek goes for, right? Star Trek has always been like a TV first franchise and has always, like you referenced with Captain Pike and the reference to like the January 6th events, always referencing kind of current events and always having a type of lesson that is netted in what's kind of going on at that time. So I feel like that could be like a really interesting show. And I think just where we are currently in the world, where there are a lot of oppressive governments to a lot of people or kind of factions and whatnot, I think perspective is like an interesting way to go with the Star Trek show.
No, I like that. I think that would be really, really, really good. I think, yeah, Star Trek has not done the best job of going outside of their Federation as a series. I mean, there are definitely comics and things. But yeah, I think, focusing on something else would be kind of interesting and cool. I mean, Star Wars is obviously doing that. I mean, one of the big ones, Andor, it's not focusing on Jedi and Sith. It's focusing on regular people, part of this like war and everything that's happening. So yeah, I think a different perspective would be great. I'm not going to answer this because I don't need to. So.
Wow.
No, I will answer it. What I really, really want. It's not a series. It's not a movie. I just want a real-time strategy Star Trek game that doesn't suck and is only on mobile devices. That's all I want in life. I just want to be able to command a fucking fleet and blow up another fucking fleet. Very simple in life.
But isn't the Federation supposed to be spreading peace?
Yes, but my Federation would be like from the evil universe, spreading
the mirror universe.
Yeah, that's what I want.
Maybe honestly, then the game you actually want is you're the Klingons and you're trying to destroy the Federation.
I'll do that too.
Yeah,
that sounds like fun. Just somebody
Klingons
fucking make the game.
Or those other pointy-eared guys, the Spocks.
Yeah. You remember the game Star Wars Empire at War?
That's racist.
Yeah. That's basically what I want, but Star Trek.
Wasn't there a Star Trek version of a game like that?
There is, but it's mobile. Like it's only on like, the fucking iPhone. It's stupid.
PUBG.
Yeah. What the fuck?
No. It's early.
Are you gonna start flossing next? What kind of old ass reference is that?
Oh no, I just PUBG. This is a real quick aside. Have you guys seen? You guys have seen the trailers for the new Bad Boys movie? So during the playoffs, they had the NBA playoffs. That is, they had Jimmy Butler in some of them, and there was one version of that commercial where Jimmy Butler's like in a SWAT uniform and he's like basically training to join the Bad Boys. So you can join their SWAT team, and he busts in through this door and he's like, Jimmy Butler, and Will Smith is like, don't you ever say your own name as a catchphrase. So it's just screaming out, and that's me screaming out PUBG for no reason. It's just screaming out random stuff as like your catchphrase.
Maybe for the beginning of these pods, you guys like doing the saying "we or was it good." Maybe we should just yell out random shit.
Yeah,
we do say our own names. We do say our own names.
Yeah,
right,
but you
have
to. Random.
But like in that commercial, I'm assuming he's saying it like a catchphrase. So you have to say your name as a catchphrase.
We kind of say
Like,
that,
and
actually.
I'm Robbie.
We have like
Krish
an
the
intonation.
Dishna. Yeah.
True.
I like the idea though that we like every episode we give ourselves like a different title. Like
Ooh, that would be fun. Then that way, we confuse people.
exactly. Like the next one I'll be like, I'm Krish. Arjuna's like,
Krish.
I'm Big Tuna. I'm Big Tuna. Ravi
Actually,
can be
Arjuna's
like,
is like quite easy because you can go with like tuna fish, big tuna, little tuna, tuna pokey tuna.
Little tuna.
I'm really
Tuba?
hungry, by the way. I haven't had
Tuba?
breakfast. Can you have sushi for breakfast? Is that?
You can
cool?
eat anything you want for breakfast. You're an adult.
I'm gonna have sushi pizza.
oh,
That's a real thing. That's a
Well,
fucking real thing.
Arjuna's trying to make it real with his example from the top.
All right, so usually, obviously, at this point, we'll ask each other, was said thing good? It's difficult to do with Star Trek Discovery when, 2 of the 3 haven't finished the whole series.
And also,
so instead, we're going to play this game, and I'll kick it off. And you have to answer, same question all around, okay? You can't change this. Arjuna, was my hosting of this podcast good?
Ooh. That's binary too. Okay, there's no like,
Ooh.
5 out of 10.
Yeah. And also, just remember, I know where you live.
That is true. You know what?
Shit.
I'm going to say it was good. But the reason I'm going to say it was good is because normally your hosting is really bad, and this was just sort of bad. So in that binary sense, it was better than your usual.
I'll take it. That's a win. It's a yes.
Krishna, was Ravi's hosting of Star Trek Discovery good? The pod.
I'm gonna say it was good. For a horrible subject like Star Trek, which is like watching paint dry. I was fairly entertained. Going through the hypotheticals, and I was able to. Ravi allowed me. A bad host would have been like, no, Star Trek is the best. Shut up, Krishna, and then would have muted me. But he allowed me to speak my mind, and he didn't. I got to have a voice on this podcast. So I will say yes, it was good.
Just want to point out that's how discussion works for those listening. And when you don't like someone's opinion, you don't have to jump down their fucking psycho.
Actually, that's a good pivot because I have 15 reasons why you guys were wrong.
Not only wrong, but I have to voice my opinion, and I'm also make personal attacks as well.
Yes,
that's important. Ravi, was Ravi's hosting of Star Trek Discovery, this podcast episode, was it good?
I'm gonna have to say no because I have behind the scenes information that proves he was not very well prepared for this.
Oh no!
And with that insider knowledge, I cannot with good faith be like, yeah, he did a good job. But I will answer the question of was Star Trek Discovery overall good? I am going to say yes. Overall, it was a good, interesting show. Is it something that I'm going to sit down and rewatch like I rewatch episodes of Voyager and Deep Space Nine? Yes, because there are some episodes that stand out. Now, will I watch the whole thing, marathon it? Fuck no. Definitely not. There are also equally as many bad episodes that make no fucking sense. And how it ends is different from other shows, and it is a nice complete ending. It doesn't feel like, oh, so that's it, that's nothing else. It's just a nice ending, and it works. So yes, it was good.
Nice.
And with that,
bro,
that is going to do it for us here on Was It Good? As always, you can listen to this podcast wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple, I think Google is now YouTube. So we are on YouTube, youtube.com/wasitgood. We have full episodes over there. You can definitely check us out on TikTok and Instagram at wasitgoodpod. New pods every Saturday. Till next time, may the force be with you.
Do yourself a favor. Check out our last podcast episode for enlightening content, and make sure you join in the discussion below.
The power of one, the power of two. Many.